C.U.T.S, Cradle under the Star.
Hello, fellow Clock Tower fans. Welcome to another episode of Deep Cuts, a Clock Tower interview podcast series hosted by us at Team C.U.T.S. We deliver the details to you, the Clock Tower community. You're probably wondering why you're seeing faces today. Well, that's because we're joined by some special guests. But before we introduce them, let's go ahead and introduce the members on the Team C.U.T.S side. I'm C.U.T.S co-founder Diario, and joining me is C.U.T.S contributor Waddle Bih.
Nice to meet you all.
And C.U.T.S co-founder Valet98. Now, why don't we get to hear an introduction from our guests at WayForward?
Yeah, hi. My name is Mariel. I'm the creative lead on Clock Tower Rewind. And I'm excited to be here and chat a little bit about the game.
And my name is Jeremy. I am the QA Manager at WayForward, and I am also excited about chatting about this game.
Guys, thank you very much for being able to sit down with us today. Why don't we go ahead and start with our questions? We're here, of course, to talk about this particular game, but you guys are also fans of other horror games. Do you guys have any other favorite horror titles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Resident Evil person. I love Resident Evil. I finished the 4 earlier this year. I'm finally getting to the Ada DLC. Always love Resident Evil. Apart from that, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame. Just a horror fan in general, I think.
You sort of stole my answer. Because my answer is obviously Resident Evil. I love all horror games. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame. All of those games are fantastic. I just like horror games in general.
Those are such legendary titles, of course, big heavy hitters, and Resident Evil 4 Remake has been dominating currently with the Separate Ways DLC. Is a very impressive. It's like you're just falling in love with the game all over again.
Yeah. And it's so much content, like just for DLC, like, oh, this is a whole nother game. It's pretty crazy. I haven't beaten it yet, so
it's very beefy in especially for the very small price tag they put on it.
Yeah.
Wasn't it $10? Wasn't it, or was it $20? I can't remember.
$10. It was 10, which was surprising. I expected it to be 20.
Yeah.
Surprising that what a lot of the fans thought was missing from the base game, even though there was a lot that they stayed faithful to. A lot of the stuff like the laser room, for example, that was saved for the DLC specifically, which was really cool. So then, how did you guys get introduced to Clock Tower? Was it through any kind of publications? Maybe you guys read some gaming magazines? Maybe it was referred to you by friends, or was it by chance?
For me, it was totally by accident. This was about, I was 16, which I'm revealing my age here, was 14 years ago. But I had downloaded, I was just like on a ROM downloading like SNES 9X. So I just downloaded like a big zip of a bunch of SNES ROMs, and Clock Tower was in it, and I played it, and it was just like, it blew me away. It was at the time the scariest thing I'd ever played. And I couldn't get through more than just a couple minutes of it before I had to like save state and quit. So it really, it had such a big impact on me. It's stuck with me ever since.
For me, it was because of my fandom towards Resident Evil. I was picking up any Capcom horror game at the time, and Clock Tower 3 came out. And I thought, that's weird. I've never heard of the series before. So I played that one, and then I decided to try to find out what the case was with the previous entries. And then I ended up, similar to Mariel, downloading a ROM and playing the original Clock Tower that way. Yeah,
the first game in the series is a very legendary title, very well known, and it's very much like a playable horror movie in a sense. And Clock Tower 3 is very much cinematic in another way. That's the first time that Capcom and Sunsoft came together to create the game, and Kinji Fukasaku, who's famous for Battle Royale, helped with the cinematic aspect of the game. But yeah, it always comes back to the first game in the series, of course. Very well known, very popular. I keep coming back to the game often, and it's such a popular title, whether you've played it on the original Super Famicom or its ports or the fan translations over the years. It's a very unique horror experience, definitely. Do you guys have any standout moments from your time within the series? And we can include Clock Tower 2, Ghost Head, Clock Tower 3, Haunting Ground. Any moments that you think about, you're like, oh, when I think of Clock Tower, I think of this.
That's a good question. You know what just occurred to me is I can't do math. It was 20 years ago that I
Neither can I.
So I just wanted to say I'm even older than I thought. But yeah, so I've played Clock Tower. Okay, so now we're getting the American and the Japanese titles mixed up. But Clock Tower 2, which was Clock Tower 1 in the US.
Yeah.
Then I never played Ghost Head, which I think was Clock Tower
2
here, right?
Yeah, the struggle within, yeah.
Yeah. And then I did play Clock Tower 3, and then I played Haunting Ground. So I think of those, Haunting Ground isn't like a Clock Tower game, but it kind of that, spiritual successor. I think that's the one that stuck with me the most of them, just because I love Fiona. I love that protagonist. I think she's so cute and cool. And I love that setting and just the way the game plays. So I think of those, it feels like a little unfair to say Haunting Ground, right? But
and Haunting Ground does also have Huey, so that's a big plus for Haunting Ground. You have a strong protagonist like Fiona, of course, and the presentation's great.
So yeah, I think that would be my answer. But yeah, for me, it really comes down to the original. The original is the one that I keep coming back to. Is just a game I adore, a big source of inspiration for me. So really, that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. Even though I started with Clock Tower 3 first, I think just the image of Scissorman, the first time I ever saw him, when he's breaking through, I think for me, actually, it was the shower the first time I saw him. And I was unlike anything I'd ever seen, really. And just at that point, obviously, there were a lot of newer games, but it just stood out to me in a way that's the image that I always associate the game with now.
Yeah, that bathroom scene is one of the most popular scenes because, that's one of your first encounters with Scissorman, the iconic slasher from the game. So much so that this is an original advertisement for the game. I don't know if you could see it, but there's the bathroom scene right there. Very striking moment. Once Scissorman appears, of course, that spells doom, and you as Jennifer, without any tools or, guns or any kind of aid that you get in other horror games at your disposal, you are placed in this horrifying setting and have to figure out how to find your way through the mansion and escape in one piece. So it's a very striking scene, definitely stays with a lot of people who have played the game. Then I guess this kind of leads into your favorite game, your favorite story, your favorite lead character, and favorite antagonist / stalker.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just going to be the original Clock Tower, just Jennifer and Scissorman / Bobby, just that whole story. It's such a, it's not a super complex story, but I think it's one that had, the twists had a really big impact on me. So yeah, it really is I always come back to it as I play this, every once in a while. I'm always thinking about it, just because I think it's just so concise and it's so well done. Yeah, it's just the one for me.
I unfortunately am going to have to also go with the same answer on Mariel's part because the original Jennifer, Scissorman, all of that stuff really stands out for me the most in the series. I love the third one. I love Haunting Ground a lot, but just that first experience was so unlike anything I'd played at that point that it sticks with me. And I think the simplicity of the story actually even helps it too.
Very much so. Very much. I very much agree. The story is very simple, very effective in how it's told and how it's structured, that it's just an easily enjoyable experience. What about you, Waddle Bih?
Oh yeah, well actually for the favorite game, it's a close match between the first game and Ghost Head, surprisingly enough. Why I do wholeheartedly agree that the first game is a better game because Ghost Head is, well, the armor. Everyone has already said what they think about that game. But it has that something, it has a weird pull that makes me keep coming back to the game even more often than the original one, which I play like once or twice every year around, well.
It's just tradition, yeah, to just
yeah,
go
just
back to the
tradition.
game.
As far as favorite stories, it's still a close match between the first one, which was the most impactful because it was how I discovered the series. It scared the crap out of me, and it took me 1 year to beat it because I was too scared to play it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as favorite lead character is actually you from Ghost Head, because I don't know, I just kind of like her. She's quiet. She's a quieter character than most all of the other leads. If we consider Journey First Evolution in Clock Tower 2, she's more passive, but at the same time she's kind of, I don't know, likable because of that. And as far as favorite antagonist goes, it's the Clock Tower 1 Scissorman. There's no doubt about it. It's the most iconic villain in the entire. He's the face of the series. So yeah.
Yep, nothing like being chased around by a demented 9-year-old with a giant pair of scissors from room to room.
Dropping from the ceiling, stomping on pianos, and chasing you around.
Yeah.
In regards to the question, does Bates count as his own protagonist?
Hi, Editor Variant Diario here, bringing you our proper response for the question, does Bates count as his own protagonist? This response comes from our Cuts contributor Waddle Bih. This is a very tricky question. Context for those that are just coming in. Ghost Head, the Clock Tower spin-off that released in Japan, released in the US as Clock Tower 2 The Struggle Within. As such, Yu Midoshima was renamed Alyssa Hale, and Schult was renamed Bates. In regards to the question, Schult/Bates definitely is his own character, but he works as a protagonist due to the duality he has with Yu/Alyssa. As much as people say that he's the best/only good thing about the game, he wouldn't nearly work as well if he was the sole playable personality in it, and I'm not talking about the bad endings in the game that occur just because he's being himself. So in short, the answer would be, he can count as his own protagonist, but the true protagonist of the game requires both Schult/Bates and Yu/Alyssa to be present. Now back to the interview. Bates is another one. I mean, Roger L. Jackson also did Bates, so you can't go wrong with that. Icons all around the series, and the first game, of course, being that it's highly influenced from, Dario Argento's Phenomena, Dario Argento's Suspiria, those other films that kind of helped Clock Tower evolve into the identity that it has. So you guys have seen the reactions to the announcement for Clock Tower when you guys announced it on LRG3, and it sounds like from your experiences with the games, you guys have been around for a long time with the fan base. So what do you guys think it is about Clock Tower that has generated the fan base and legacy that it has from what you guys have seen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. I think it's stood the test of time. Particularly the first one. I think the graphics are still beautiful. Just the gameplay looks great, and then the little cutscenes are beautiful. So it's really a game that still continues to look great. Again, it was terrifying for like at that time to be able to evoke that much emotion from me. I think obviously it's that same case for a lot of people. So I think that, and then kind of like Jennifer being a great character, Scissorman being a great antagonist, kind of carrying that through the series. Obviously, yeah, it's struck a chord with a lot of people that are still thinking about it the same way I am.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I will also add that I feel like just that first game, the first couple times I played it, not really knowing the mechanics, the RNG of certain elements of it, it just felt like a different experience. Like I never knew what I was getting into anytime I started playing the game. I never knew what to expect, which I really appreciated a lot, and that stuck with me more than anything else.
And as mentioned previously, Jennifer, of course, is a character that deals with a lot in the first game, and leading into the second game. there's a lot of tension when it comes to being stalked by a killer that you obviously can't kill. So, I think that the chase and the thrill that is matched from the horror influences that director Hifumi Kono has, you get really sucked in. And with the game's multiple endings, it's kind of interesting to see how you will navigate, because you want the character to make it out alive and survive, and that's just another appeal to the game, of course. So, yeah, the fan base has been starving for a revival for at least about a decade or so. The last sort of revival that we had somewhat was Hifumi Kono, the original creator of Clock Tower, created Nightcry, and that seems to have its own kind of like divided reception. But aside from virtual console releases in Japan, there hadn't been any proper push for a revival. So the Clock Tower community had remained a very small community, but a fairly active one. And Team C.U.T.S birthed from that, of course. So then there are a lot of horror games releasing, this year leading into next. We've mentioned a few of them. Not only did we get some Resident Evil stuff with RE4 Remake and Separate Ways DLC, but then, Silent Hill's coming back, and then there's Alan Wake, and now Clock Tower, of course. Do you guys feel that this has been a good time for horror games?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think between kind of like these big AAA titles like you've mentioned, and then I think a lot more openness for like retro or indie titles, whether that's like legitimate like retro titles like Clock Tower or games that are kind of bracing that aesthetic, but with, kind of more modern gameplay. I think just the audience right now is super receptive to horror of all types, which is great. It's a great time to be a horror fan for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, so many fantastic horror games that came out. Indie games have been coming out the last couple of years. They've been getting bigger and bigger, and now AAA is back in that space. We got the Dead Space remake. We got Resident Evil 4 remake. The fact that Resident Evil 4 remake and Alan Wake 2 are both nominated for Game of the Year right now is fantastic to me.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. The Game Awards, of course, which as of this recording is coming up. But what also came to mind is Alone in the Dark 2 is also on its way.
Yep. That's coming out in
Yeah.
January.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, there's plenty of horror games coming out, not only in the AAA sense, also in the indie sense, as Mariel has mentioned, with... in recent years, we've had Chris Darrow's Remothered series, and then out of that, Bye Sweet Carol is on its way out. And then other projects like Tenebris Somis, I'm probably blank on that name, but that's a new one. That's a Clock Tower influence. Retcher is also another one. Ladies of Sorrow is another one. So that, there's a lot to like from horror. Horror is definitely here, and so much to enjoy from this year and the next.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any games in the Clock Tower or related series that you guys would personally love to see come back, i.e. Clock Tower 2, Ghost Head, Clock Tower 3, Haunting Ground? A lot of people have been wanting a Haunting Ground revival of sorts, I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, I would love that myself. I feel like for me, Haunting Ground still seems recent enough in my memory that I'm like, I'm good with where it is. Though it was a while ago now. I think I'm just old. But I would love to see like Clock Tower 2 and Ghost Head kind of revived, just because I think those were so kind of like, they were earlier on, I think, in the PS1 era, right? So to kind of see those stories kind of brought back to life with maybe more modernized gameplay, more modern graphics, to kind of, revive that world. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of all of these games. Just keep pushing them out. I don't care. Push them all out.
Yeah.
Clock Tower 2, Ghost
Go down
Head,
the line.
Clock Tower 3, Haunting Ground. Just come on, all of them.
Yeah.
Just take our money. We have money. We want the games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a little Huey plush.
Oh, I would buy so many of them.
Yeah. I probably have like at least like 5 just like surround me, have like a little Huey army.
Oh, that's cute.
Imagine that. I think there was a stuffed dog skin that you could get for Huey in Haunting Ground.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, one of the costumes.
It was reduced attack power, but reduced damage, if I remember correctly. Alright, so now we come to you guys bringing back Clock Tower. I see that there's a Jennifer in behind you, Jeremy. Oh, watch out, because and on your shirt too. We're in the midst of a Clock Tower revival, thanks to you guys and the teams at WayForward and Sunsoft, along with Capcom. We just want to get this out of the way because we're well aware of it by now, and there's still a few people out there who are just like wondering, like, oh, is it a remake? Is it a remaster? Is it a port? We of course know the answer, but it is a port, correct?
Yes, I think our official terminology is Port Plus, since we are keeping the base game as it was, but also including extras for like a larger package than just getting the original as it was.
Right. With that, how did the Clock Tower project form at WayForward? And how do you guys? What's the retro game process for choosing a game to bring to a modern audience? Was Clock Tower a major interest, or was it like just going down the list of, we could bring this game back, we could bring this game back, or was it like, oh, Clock Tower, we should bring that game back?
We did have a list, but Clock Tower was very high on the list. Effectively, I mean, after we did River City Girls Zero, we looked around at other games that had fan bases, but didn't have a US release, because like River City Girls Zero wasn't originally released in the US, and we felt, hey, we wanted to bring that in, do actual localization for it, so for fans of the series, they can finally play that game. And then it became like, well, what other games are there out there that are very similar to that maybe we could do that again? And thankfully, Limited Run Games, they already had connections with Sunsoft. So we then reached out to Sunsoft and managed to communicate this deal going forward over the past couple of years.
That was actually my next question, is did you guys approach Sunsoft, or did Sunsoft approach you guys?
We approached Sunsoft. I think actually Limited Run approached them on our behalf and then set up the meeting.
Oh, okay. That's great. How much involvement does Sunsoft have with the project? Because we know that they were at Bit Summit. They had the life-size Jennifer standee, and were also advertising the game as well. And prior to your guys' announcement, Clock Tower had only been listed under licensing proposal on Sunsoft's website. So how much involvement does Sunsoft have, if you're able to answer that?
I mean, they are collaborating with us. I don't really know how to specify like exactly, but I mean, we obviously work with them. We show them everything that we're doing, and they give approvals because it is their IP in the end.
So then Clock Tower is, of course, utilizing the Carbon engine in order to run on modern platforms. For those that may be unfamiliar, what is the Carbon engine?
The Carbon engine is Limited Run Games' incredible game engine that really allows us, or well, them more likely, to go back and port a lot of handheld and classic titles to modern consoles. And it does have some of its own unique features, like it has its own shell menu where you could do manual saves, stuff like that. Like, it's stuff we've seen with other games in the past, but this is like Limited Run's own engine that they've made.
Cool. Well, now we have a description for those that were wondering, because we saw like questions being thrown around initially where people were like, what's the Carbon engine? What's the Carbon engine? Modern Vintage Gamer, who is part of the Carbon engine, helped bring, Shantae from the Game Boy Color onto Switch, River City Girls Zero, and now Clock Tower, along with other titles. There's a very informative video on that that you can find on YouTube for more information on the Carbon engine. We want to talk art. We're both Waddle and I are like very big into art, and there have been like key art to associate with a retro release, just to kind of polish up the presentation. With River City Girls Zero, there were many tweaks and additions surrounding the game that helped complement the experience of the original game experience. Tell us about the art direction for this new release of Clock Tower. Was it difficult updating and modernizing what is now a nearly 30-year-old game, especially when it came to adding animated cutscenes and a new intro, etc.?
Yeah, so I think we're really trying to draw from the original material where we can. So like for the intro, I'm looking at those the Clock Tower comics that I think came with like the strategy guide. So kind of looking at that, looking to what that might have been inspired by, which is kind of like these Italian giallo films from like the 70s with like the bright colors and really dreamy kind of atmosphere. And then putting, I have my own style inclination, so I'm kind of putting my own little personal twist on it. But really trying to look at the source material and say, hey, how can we kind of bring this to today's world, kind of modernize it a little bit while still being respectful and inspired by the source material and what that was inspired by. So I think there's definitely a balance to strike. I think my style tends to lean a bit more like anime than I think the original comic is. And I understand that maybe that can be something that people are like, oh, I would rather see it exactly as it was, which I totally understand. But I'm, trying to find a balance. So hopefully we can achieve that with the new materials we're making.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember seeing a slightly for the key art used for the reveal. So it's the version like you can see behind Jeremy. And there was also another version which was seen, I think, at Bit Summit, but I'm not exactly sure, which has slightly different eyes.
Yeah.
Were just two versions. Was one sent earlier? Was just one updated? And which one do we have to expect to see in the final?
Yeah, that was a request that came to kind of appeal to different audiences. So I think that we got that feedback made me think about like, oh, maybe I should lean a little bit more into the original source art, which did lean have a more realistic style. So I think, again, trying to find that balance, trying to meet the different markets that are going to be experiencing this game, as well as making the fans, as happy as I can. It's a lot of pressure for sure, but I'm also trying to think like, as a fan myself, what would excite me? So, just trying to find a balance and make it work and do the best job I can.
Okay.
Yeah, when I saw the key art, I loved it, and seeing that it was directly referenced from the artist who we now know as Nane Masaki. She recently shared her original sketches, but seeing your art derived from the original artwork, I was excited to see like, oh, well, Clock Tower is being modernized, but it's still staying true to its roots in a sense. It's just great to see that the game is coming back, releasing worldwide officially for the first time ever, and with a bit of a modern polish artistically, but just the cinematics around it, which, from what was announced so far, is already a bigger package than what we've seen for the game previously. So it'll be interesting to see more of that, but yeah, the artwork so far looks beautiful. I look at the artwork and I'm like, oh yeah, this is Jennifer, like personally me. There's a little bit of a divide, I know, out there, but we at Team C.U.T.S saw what was revealed of the artwork so far, and we're excited to see more.
Yeah, I think one thing I will say, one thing that has been a little tough is I feel like there's kind of two different designs for Bobby, because there's kind of like his presentation in the game where he's kind of like this like squat little guy, And then there's his presentation in the comic where he's actually much skinnier and leaner. So, trying to find a balance between those was also a challenge. But hopefully people will be happy with where we landed.
I can't remember off the top of my head, because in the original manual for the Super Famicom game, there was no listing of the characters at all. And even in a lot of the guidebooks for a lot of the various ports, Bobby or Dan did not get like official artwork until the PS1 First Sphere paintings. Prior to that, they were silhouettes, I guess, to hide their identities in order to have a bigger reveal when you play the game. So it seemed like the challenge of converting the sprite work to artwork was still a challenge back then, but it'd be really cool to see more of the artwork whenever it's revealed. I know that Bobby made a cameo in the celebratory WayForward Halloween image with Kyoko and Misako from River City Girls. Oh, sorry, my cat has come in. Will there be cats in this Clock Tower game? Surely so.
There will be.
More lore on the black cat.
Oh yeah, the black cat from the pink bathroom. With tons of fan translations being available for years, this is the first official localization for the game. And certain riddles or pronunciation of the names from within this game have been interpreted differently over the years. Either Barrows is referred to as Burrows, or Barlow, or Balos. We've seen that come up at one point. How are you guys approaching the localization? Were you guys able to get in contact with members of the original staff, or did you guys have to interpret the game's text on your own?
Yeah, so we did start from scratch. We had a fresh dump of all the text from the game. We had a translator, kind of go over it from scratch. But Jeremy and I had input, kind of being familiar with the fan translations and how things have been interpreted over the years. So I think we were able to kind of provide a bit of context, provide our own kind of interpretation of things. So I'm hoping kind of we landed somewhere that I think will make people happy. But yeah, I think totally new translation while still being aware of how other things were translated in the past. And as well as, having Sunsoft there to support and answer questions as needed. So yeah, I think it'll be, the one for sure.
And it is worth mentioning, we can't really get into too many details on it, but we are coordinating with the game's original director, Kono-san.
Okay.
Oh, good to hear. It'd be interesting to get a kind of a better understanding on some of the riddles, because some of the fan translations have either tried to be cryptic with some of the major. Sorry, the cat's joining. Hey, the cat. See, the cat wants to be a part as well. The cat has questions as well. We're looking forward to seeing how that is going to be interpreted. The riddles within the game. One of our CUTS contributors sent us these questions going forward. What led you to choosing the Super Famicom version original over the various ports over the years, notably the First Sphere?
It being the original game, how it was originally released, we wanted to preserve that as much as possible. So that was the default first one that we focused on. Yeah,
that makes sense. Given the amount of extra/unused content discovered in the game over the years, was any part of it taken into consideration when developing this updated release?
We are looking at all of that. We've taken all of those things into consideration, but we can't be too specific on anything right now. Okay. We are including an enhanced version of the game with the original game, so you can make from that what you will, but we can't promise any specific changes will be exactly the same, or what content will be in it or what won't.
So then our next question, which is more or less the same, I'm sure it's going to get the same answer. This was sent to us by another one of our CUTS contributors. What tweaks are you guys making for the game that you are able to share with us today at all? Many wonder if the extra content from the PS1 port will be added, what the quality of life improvements are, or if this will be a true to the original experience. You guys more or less answered that already.
Yeah, I mean, effectively true to the original experience for one version, and then another version, we are looking at all the different things and pulling what we think makes sense to pull, and maybe even doing some other tweaks, but we'll see what happens, really. Okay. And I mean, Mariel obviously we have the intro, we have new music, we have a lot of nice things surrounding the whole package as well.
Right. There's a theme song from Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
Yes. Yeah, and Dale North.
Yes.
I don't know when we can share it, but I will say it sounds amazing. So.
What was it like getting them in? Because that must have been a pretty big deal.
Yeah, well, I think Jeremy Dale has had a relationship with WayForward for a while now, right?
Yes. And I think Mary did some music for us in the past, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That was before my time, so I can't speak for certain on all of those details, but I'm pretty sure we've worked with both of them in the past.
Okay, cool. So I guess it just all magically just like, I guess, not magically, but it just kind of just like formed and it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean, we did a unique song for River City Girls 0 as well for its like intro, and then one for its closing. And very early on, one of the decisions that was made is we should do something similar for this. And Mary's name was, I think, the first one that came up in terms of doing the vocals for it.
Cool. So then this was sent by one of our interviewees from other episodes of Deep Cuts. In addition to the art gallery, are there any additional bonuses being added that you're able to share today? One of our viewers asks if there will be a soundtrack menu to listen to the game's music.
I can go ahead.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think what we can confirm is, we will have this new intro song. We will have the new animated intro. The game will have a couple other bonuses as well, but I think we're not quite ready to confirm them publicly.
Okay. So, of course, we know Clock Tower. We're all fans of Clock Tower here. We're here to talk about Clock Tower. But there may be viewers stumbling on this video for the first time ever who perhaps have never played any of the games and are coming on and saying, what's a Clock Tower? So, for those who have never played the game, what can players expect?
I would describe Clock Tower as a very initially quiet experience that ramps up to 100 very quickly. And I think it's a game that will surprise people if you haven't played it before, because I think, despite kind of the now very retro package, I think it's a game that is still very evocative. I think it's very tense. And I think, despite the old controls, despite the old look, I think people will still have that same experience with it now. So, I'm just excited to kind of get this game in the hands of more people so they can, love it as much as we do.
Yeah, this game is there's a reason why this game has been like covered by numerous people, numerous YouTubers over the years. Out of all the games in the series, there's a reason why this game like still has like a very strong enough foundation that's still being talked about and is being constantly discovered by new people. And this release is going to surely create some new fans out of it, which would be great for more support for the Clock Tower series. Would you guys personally be interested in any further human entertainment games like being localized in the future if you guys had the chance? Titles mentioned here include the Convenience Store, The Firemen, Fire Pro Wrestling. Twilight Syndrome is one major one that one has references to Clock Tower.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't know about Twilight Syndrome until I played Danganronpa.
Yes,
because that has like a little segment in Danganronpa, and I was like, why is there a whole game here? Like, did they just make a separate game? So then I was looking into it, and I was like, oh no, this is actually it's funny. I feel like it's also kind of a spiritual successor, and just kind of like the way it navigates and plays. So I would love to see that, because I haven't played that myself. And I only learned about it relatively recently, so I want to be able to experience that just for myself.
For me, honestly, the answer is going to be yes to everything. The more, the merrier. The more that we can keep doing stuff like this, the merrier. Bring these things out to people that potentially just have never had a chance to play these things. I love the idea of doing that.
Imagine bringing the earlier Twilight Syndrome games and just adding like a little Danganronpa mini game. It's like it's like a little side game called Danganronpa. Oh, I wonder what
make it full circle.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Now, because we love Clock Tower, of course. what would your guys' personal very own Clock Tower sequel look like? Let's say if hypothetically Sunsoft fully gave you the reins.
Oh, that's a tough one because I feel like each of the Clock Tower games are so different. We do have the first couple that feature Jennifer, and then Clock Tower 3 took a very different direction, and then Haunting Ground is also very different. So I don't know where I would start, but I think what I would personally love to do, Sunsoft, if you're listening, is if I could do like an HD remaster of the original Clock Tower, because my whole thing is kind of like 2D animation. I've kind of made a career off of like doing 2D animated games. So if anyone ever wants a Clock Tower HD remaster, you know who to talk to.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that want that.
Very much so, yeah.
I mean, going with what you just said there, I would say, like, on one hand, I didn't even consider the idea that a new game could just be a completely new story that's not directly connected, and still be fantastic. Like, it'd still be part of the series. I will say, though, my initial thought on it, when I first thought, like, I wonder what you could do next, because like Clock Tower 2 really wrapped up the Jennifer storyline in many ways. So for me, I'd honestly, this would upset some people, but I would do the Halloween thing of like, oh, it's 30 plus years after the original and we ignore the sequels, or at least we don't acknowledge the sequels' continuity.
So make Jennifer kind of like be like a Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
Like give her a daughter. The daughter could be the main character. Have like you didn't resolve the story if Clock Tower 2 didn't happen, kind of thing.
Ooh, I like that. That sounds fun.
Sunsoft, if you're listening.
It's funny you guys mention that because we've actually done threads before in where the original game's creator Hifumi Kono had plans for his own version of Clock Tower 3 before Human folded and then Sunsoft took over, and that his plot synopsis, which didn't go past the planning stages, was that he wanted different doors in like different parts of the world leading into like the world of Scissorman, and that you would most likely play as Jennifer or a daughter character, is what he mentioned. But it didn't go past that, so it's interesting to hear you guys have like similar, ideas. Would definitely be interesting to see where Clock Tower could go. I'm pretty sure it would depend most definitely on the success of this current release.
Yeah, I do feel like in the past few years there have been like little Clock Tower things here and there. Like I think there was like was there a mobile game?
There was. Yeah. Clock Tower ready for the next.
Yeah, so there was like a mobile game, and then I think they made a bunch of merch for like a pop-up shop that didn't quite materialize. So it's like they're
right.
Still like doing stuff with the IP. They know the people, like the fans are out there. But hopefully, this release will make a big enough splash to really revitalize it.
Yeah, hopefully so. If you guys watching, if you want more Clock Tower, support Clock Tower. It's just like, come on.
Yeah.
All right, so then in closing, is there anything you guys would like to say to the viewers watching this interview?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that everyone is looking forward to it. We're so excited to bring this game to the West with a new translation for existing fans, and hopefully bringing a lot of new fans into the fold. So hopefully, again, this release will kind of revitalize this IP, just bring a lot more awareness around how great it is. And yeah, I hope we do it justice. We're trying our best.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better than myself. You everything to that. Yes.
Oh yeah, by the way, my offer to proofread the entire French script for the game still stands.
And you mentioned Mariel in the beginning, real quick. You mentioned the subtitle rewind. Is that like a term, or is that like a title?
Oh yes, that is the proper title of this release. It is Clock Tower :rewind.
Well, there you have it, an official title, Clock Tower Rewind. The first game is finally getting its worldwide release, thanks to the teams at WayForward, along with Sunsoft and Capcom, releasing early 2024. Pre-orders will be going up whenever Limited Run Games announces them. But for official updates on the game, you can keep it locked on WayForward.com as well as WayForward's Twitter. I'm sure there's going to be in merchandise. I know I'm going to have to snag me one of those as soon as possible. Thank you very much, both Mariel and Jeremy, for joining. Shout out to the teams at WayForward, Sunsoft, and Capcom for all just collectively coming together and having this happen. We're looking forward to seeing this game's release, enjoy it all over again, and give it a fair review.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This is great.
Thank you.
And to those watching, if you are hungry for more Clock Tower content, we are actively preserving and documenting anything and everything on the series. Hit that notification bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to be notified when a new episode is up, new videos, and the like. And of course, follow us on Twitter at The First Fear. This has been an episode of Deep Cuts provided by Team C.U.T.S. Thank you for watching, and remember,
Fear is fascinating.